Welcome to Empowered. Before we kick off, I would like to acknowledge and pay my respect to the past, present and future traditional custodians and elders of this nation and the continuation of cultural, spiritual and educational practices of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. We further acknowledge the land on which we work here at RED and the land of which is the land of the Turrbal and Yagara peoples. The struggle you have overcome might be the struggle a queen is currently sinking in. We all have a story and we all need to share it. Welcome to Empowered. Here you'll be surrounded by a community of queens who have conquered their own, be it their struggle with the elusive work-life balance, building up a business and selling those eventually down the track, a fitness journey, a weight loss goal, or anything that you deem to be success. I'm blessed to have a village of people in my corner who lead with love, share their success tips, and this is a platform for those stories. If you had the cure to cancer, you'd share it. And your story is someone's cure. Your story will help save a soul, and this world needs far more of that. The intention for these poddies is to host guests with topics and tricks shared with the listener to help them live a life full of love, happiness, and success. Be surrounded by queens who have walked your path and resonate with their stories. What do you know now that has helped your journey that you would love for your younger self to have in their toolbox? Welcome to Empowered. And welcome to Karen Brown, a phenomenal queen in many, many fields. I was just saying before our official introduction how I've always admired you and your determination. When I first messaged you to say, please be a guest on my poddie, I know you had that moment of, for heck what, Emma? Why have you asked me? And in 60 seconds or maybe a little bit more just now, we've gone over 4 or 5 really, really cool topics that we can bring into today. But again, I admire you. I think you're amazing, and I'm a bit stalky on your LinkedIn because I think you've got so much goodness to share, and you tend to have a really nice way of sharing your story and your success. That sprinkle of tips along the way without selling. You know how some in LinkedIn pages it's like, oh, not again. And it can get a bit preachy. But yours are never like that. Yours are always very inspiring. And I've always found that I am inspired by you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We know each other from another life in another business, and that was in the human behaviour and culture scene when I was in that field. And obviously have brought that into here at RED. And I loved working with you and understanding the growth and the passion that you had for your baby business, which is growing in leaps and bounds. I'll give a very unshameless plug. Karen is a phenomenal pharmacist who has multiple franchises. I'm not sure if you want to mention the brand name.
That's fine. Yes,
Go plug away. So Terry White Chemmart, you have 2 stores?
Yes, 2 here in Brisbane.
Amazing.
Yes.
Which location are they?
I've got Terry White Chemmart, Arana Hills and Ferny Grove.
I didn't know you were so north.
Yes.
Awesome. We're Chermside West, Astley. So.
North side of the river.
Thank you. Better side. And along the way, I've loved watching not only obviously your business ownership, which I love and have in common and adore, but also to that leadership piece, which you're creating, and it's almost like you've got another brand that you're blossoming out the side of what you do as a business owner and a franchisee and franchisor. The ownership and the leadership piece there is really cool. And I loved working with you and understanding you and your business a little bit more when we were working in that space together. It's something that can't be taught. And I think we're going to unpack a lot of that today from a couple of the context or the stories that you mentioned before. So again, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Karen, tell us everything. We've got about 30 to 40 minutes, so go for it. But what brings Karen Brown that I see today to us in this, what I believe, successful light? You know, you're a successful business owner, but there's so much more to you. Tell us everything.
I am living what I would say is a teenage dream.
Aww.
So I was grade 9 when I decided I wanted to be a pharmacist.
Wow, that's rare to know so soon.
Careers Information Day, put in a series of, when you answer the questions and the algorithm spits out. And it said pharmacist.
Wow.
And I knew I wanted to be in health.
Right.
But knew that I probably didn't want to do medicine. Like in the eyes of a 14-year-old girl, pharmacy looked pretty and it was a nice place, and as opposed to a medical GP practice or something, clinical white room. So yes, no family in health, it was just something quite unique. And now I'm got, over the time have owned 4 different pharmacies, absolutely genuinely love being a pharmacist and being the hub of our community, being trusted and respected.
You just gave me goosebumps. That's so
you really get to make a difference, and it's everything that I thought it would be. And like every industry, we have our ebbs and flows. But I've been really, really blessed to be parts of communities where they truly rely on you, and you see generations grow up where they were babies and now they work for you and things like that.
Oh, my goodness.
So it's just beautiful. And I think your passion is always infectious. And I think if you genuinely love what you do, then success can come.
True.
And yes, so I suppose at the core of it, I'm a pharmacist. I'm a pharmacy owner. Always knew I wanted to own pharmacies. And then have a few other little side businesses that I love, and have a big background in sport. And so a lot of what I do in business is what I learnt in sport. And when we talk about leadership, I was actually asked once, when did your leadership journey begin? And I think we talk about our business journey.
Yes.
But it's actually a question of, when does leadership start? And is it as an 8-year-old when you're captain of the netball team? Is it when you're at primary school and you're school captain? I think, as you said, I think there's a natural born leader in us, but I think then we evolve, and I look now in my leadership journey, and when I reference sport, I think we wear many hats as leaders, and that has changed over time. I think probably a decade ago, the coach was in the grandstand barking down orders. Now I see, definitely through the pandemic in pharmacy, which was a crazy time for everyone, but being on the front line, it was unbelievable. And I felt like you were the captain coach. You were in the middle. You were doing everything. You were leading, the big plays. You were inspiring the people around you. Now it's trying to be back to being the coach in the grandstand, but in that kind of bird's eye view kind of role. But then I'm loving being a cheerleader as well, and realizing that my team can actually do it without me being out there in the middle of the field, trying to, just letting them have a go and letting them pull off the big plays, and just being that proud mum on the sideline, seeing them flourish.
What an amazing analogy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then I think sometimes you've got to be the referee, and you've got to make really tough calls.
You do.
Sometimes you're the water boy that runs out and just gives them the pep talk and the water when they need it. And I think each team, the joy of that then is each team member needs you to play a different role.
True.
And you've got to know which role they need you to do, and that's the fun of it as well. And I love it.
Have you actually put that down as a construct for your business and success of that, or you just sort of keep that in mind when you are day to day going through?
I do. As I said, as an athlete, I think you're always got an athlete mindset, and I've done your different kind of psychometric testing.
Yes.
And we did our strengths profile, and my top 5 are competition. Everything is a competition to me. How can I possibly be better? How can we do the 1% more to be better? Competition, drive, focus, achiever, strategy, and that's all from being an athlete where it's, as I said, what are the 1%ers? How can I, I don't get caught up in my opposition or my competition, but I respect them. How do you move on quickly? I don't hold grudges. We move on pretty quick.
That's good.
So there's so much of what I do. And I think I actually was only 6 months out of uni when I became a partner.
Wow.
So I was a very young partner running my own store with people a lot older than me, a lot more experience with me. But I'd come from playing netball at the elite level, coaching teams, managing teams. So that didn't faze me. It was just another team. And I've always been one to lead by example and always be in there with them. And you just earn respect, and you earn respect by leading from the front and helping them and inspiring. My job, I always see, is to make them a better person.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter how long you're with me. And in pharmacy, it's a very interesting work environment because you've got career pharmacists, you've got part-time, full-time, you've got assistants that might be at uni doing law.
True.
And then once they graduate, they then go on to law.
Right.
So you've got kind of temporary, you've got people that are in it for careers, you've got full-time, part-time, weekend, weekdays. And so my vision is always that you leave a better person than when you first started with me. If I can make you a better person, then I've done my job kind of thing. And
this is why tissues are in my podcast recordings.
And I'm also big on creating an environment where people belong. And I think that's as a team that they feel like, as individuals, they feel like they belong as a team. But even as our community, that's where you have really successful pharmacies, is if the community feels like they're part of your family, we call it.
Oh, stop. I love that.
But that's what I want to create, that they walk in and, you know, for some people it's at the worst times of their lives, that we can be that big hug, virtual hug to kind of make them feel safe and better. And so creating a sense of belonging, and that comes from teams as well, and sporting teams. And I also think as a leader, we're just managing people. And I think some of the best coaches in the sporting world actually are the best people managers.
Yes.
They might not be the best tactical, skillful, they employ those people. It's actually they just bring out the best in individuals for a common goal. And whether that's to have a successful business or to win a Olympic gold medal, grand final, it's all just about bringing a group of individuals together and bringing out the best in them.
Thank you.
I think when you love what you do, that's infectious, and you attract the right people. And then the success is just an offshoot of that kind of thing.
You make it sound so easy. I know it's not.
It's not, but it's,
that's
as I said, I enjoy it. So I thrive on the challenge of it.
It's amazing. You said before that somebody asked you when you become a leader. I can't remember the exact phrasing, but it can be difficult for someone because they've got it in them, but it's that confidence. And I think your sporting career and your athleticism, as you mentioned, you kind of have to be a bit confident, just know your space, you know, physically and metaphorically, where I'm good at this thing. And, you know, without that ego, I think you don't have an ego about you. You've got a beautiful, natural.
But I think it's also that you care about everyone, like you want the best for everyone. So if you as a team player, and I look at my children who are 12 and 10, you know, they're so supportive of their teammates, and they're the ones cheering and the ones going, how can I help you? What can we do better? Like that's when I look at little kids and go, you're going to be a good leader one day, because you're not this individual. You actually care about everyone else and how they can do better. And I think that kind of childhood, we talk physically, mentally, I am 6'3", and so I've always been tall. And I'm not shy about that either. Like I have a real presence, I think, and I love talking to teenage girls and things like that, that they, you know, don't slouch, be confident, love being tall.
Fellow tall girl, I wish I heard that when I was younger.
But it's true. You know, and I think the generations have changed now. There's a lot more, you know, tall children now. But be really confident about it. Don't shy away. And so I think I always kind of probably had that physical presence. And then as I said, I've just loved being in teams, and how can we collectively win?
You're amazing.
And it's really interesting. So my career is as netballer, but I went to St Margaret's, which is one of the top girls' schools here, and it's a very big rowing school. And the rowing coach always wanted to get me in a boat, but it was always on at the same time as netball. So I always no, I'm doing netball. But when I retired from netball, I ran into that said rowing coach at the Queensland Academy of Sport, and he said, okay, I know you're not doing netball anymore. Can I get you in a boat? And it's really interesting. I think rowing is one of the ultimate team sports in that you can be 1 second out and it affects the whole crew. Whereas at netball, I can have a bad game, but the other 6 around me can pick up the pieces kind of thing. So I think it's the ultimate in team sport, but I've never felt so lonely.
Wow.
And I felt, and apologies to all the amazing rowers that are out there, I think I felt it was like everyone was in a silo doing their job perfectly. And the production line went perfectly.
I can see that.
Whereas in netball, it was the face-to-face, it was the talking, it was the camaraderie. It was just a real different feeling, like 2 teams, but a totally different feeling for me. And I think that happens in business as well, that you can have these teams that just are a phenomenal production line and everyone does their job. And to me as well, the success is in the intangible. It's in the magic. It's not the black and white. It's not the strategic document. It's not what's written up on the walls and stuff in businesses. It's actually the stuff you can't pinpoint that make it that
secret sauce.
I think one of the biggest compliments I can get in the pharmacy is I love the vibe in your store.
Oh,
and I think
amazing.
that's like if we've got a good vibe and the customers and patients can pick up on that, then we're winning.
That's right.
So I think it's the intangible stuff that makes teams magical. And yes, we can teach the skill and all the, as I said, all the quantitative things. But yeah, it's the magic that makes it special.
It is, and that's culture as an essence. So well
Absolutely.
done, culture queen at heart. I adore that, and I could feel that and see that back when we were working together. You've got that something different that people want, and sometimes they can't. You say that your customers say that there's a great vibe. They may not be able to articulate what it is, but you just. I'm sure if you sat down with them and drilled it out of them, it would be the comfort factor, what was the pharmacy family analogy?
Family.
Family. I love that. And you're creating that as a core. And if that's, what you as the leader of the organisation or the team want, then obviously you're going to instill that. Have you found much along the way where people don't subscribe to that or don't want that type of environment for their career? I highly doubt it, but have you?
But we do. So at my main store at Arana Hills, we have what's called the Team Arana bus. So we have an analogy. I was looking to do a team charter, but I didn't want to document.
Yes.
So we wanted something more graphic, and the bus analogy really rang true to me. So we, as a team, initially when we kind of launched it was, where's the bus going?
Yeah.
Who gets a ticket on the bus? What's your role on the bus? What do we do if we hit speed bumps? What do we do if we want to go off-road and there's no map? What if we turn left and we should have turned right?
Yep.
What's our fuel supply? So we go through all of this, and it has become a real, I suppose, notoriety of our store that actually intrigues people, definitely in a recruitment sense. People are like, your bus looks really fun. What happens on your bus?
Yeah.
But also then it gives that analogy of who are the right people on the bus in the right seats. And if you're going to drag your feet or try and pull the bus in the other direction, now it's not this easy, but get off the bus.
Yep.
And also over time, I don't take it personally.
Yeah.
I want to actually help people to get to where they want to go. And if our bus isn't the right bus, I'll help you find another bus.
Absolutely.
And that's okay. And I've also learned over my time is actually really showcasing that in the recruitment phase and go, this is what we're all about.
Yeah, be proud of it.
This is what it means to be here. This is what it means to get a ticket. We don't give them away lightly.
It's amazing.
And if it's not for you, that's okay. I'm not offended.
We had sorry to interrupt. We had an interview probably about 6 months ago, and they went through and we offered them a second interview, and the candidate said, look, I really appreciate your time. I just feel like your IT business is a little too extroverted for me. And I said, oh, thank you so much. And Chris, my husband, said, darling, I don't think that's a compliment. But for me, there was two parts to it. Yes, we are different in our world, and that's okay. That's who we are.
Correct.
We've created. Yep, absolutely. We'll never shy away from it. And I respect that if people can't see themselves here, that's okay. We're very open with feelings and thoughts and emotions and neurodivergency and what mental health, because it's, burnout is so prevalent in our world. And as the chief of happiness here, I very much lean into that, not lean away from it. But yeah, it was funny when Chris said, I don't think that's a compliment, Emma, but that's okay. You're not going to be for everybody.
Correct.
But it's part of our brand, and it's part of your brand. Your bus is part of your brand. And
you attract the tribe, the people that want to be part of your tribe.
Exactly.
You attract. And when I said to you before, my number one strength was competition. My number 34 is empathy. But I surround myself with people. I'll deliver the news, but then I've got an amazing operations manager that gives them a big hug and says it's okay.
You've got your yin and yang,
yeah.
Good cop, bad cop.
But also it's attracting the people. We have a little slogan in our store. It's not a competition. Everything's a competition. But that you attract.
I love that.
People, will have little challenges in store or our pharmacy in particular is one of the top in Australia for vaccinations. So we've done over 30,000 vaccinations in our room. And we just, subconsciously at the end of the day, between the pharmacists. How many did you do today? What did you do today? But then there's other people that don't like that kind of stuff, and that's fine.
We've got some here too who gamify. So everything's a ticket in our world.
Oh, yes.
So it's a ticket with associated number and closing tickets or opening and closing tickets, and they gamify it. And we've got dashboards everywhere, and some love it, but some, again, just are silent performers and like to do their own thing.
Yeah.
But,
and as I said to you before, that's the beauty of leadership is it's managing all the different individuals, and you can't have everyone the same. You want diversity.
How boring it would be.
Correct. So you want people that challenge you. Correct. You want people that get excited. You want people that, So I just think you kind of find the right people that make your tribe, and then that's when the magic happens. And you sometimes want to take stock and go, everything is just humming right now. But then you're ready for the curveball, I think the more curveballs you get, the better at catching them you are.
That's awesome. Actually, that's probably part and parcel of your sporting career too, is being able to deal with negativity and feedback and, conflict and all those,
and things that are out of your control. I don't get caught up on things that aren't in my control. Yeah. What's in my control, focus my energies on that.
That's good.
And in the pharmacy world, there's so many stakeholders.
True.
You've got governments, you've got wholesale, there's so many. Yeah. So I don't get caught up in, and that's another sporting thing. You just focus on what you can do as an athlete and as a team. And then, as I said, you understand what your opposition are doing in that, but you can't control what they do. You can't control how they turn up. You can't control that. So focus on what's in your control.
That's right.
And one of my other favourite sayings is be where your feet are. And so I was very lucky to do CODA in 2019, so pre-pandemic, which was just a godsend.
In there.
But I went as a part of Terry White Kamat, and it was for a charity with Ovarian Cancer Australia, which is our charity partner. And we had 10 owners, our CEO and our head of operations. So a pretty powerful group of people. Yeah. The best 10 days, it was the most amazing experience, physically, mentally, emotionally, history, cultural, the environment, the people, the villages, just phenomenal. But it was so interesting that two good stories. In the lead up, we'd said to Glenn from Venture Professionals, who was taking us, we want to know what are the heights, what are the distances, we want to make sure we've done all the right training, have we done the right, the right hills, everything. And he's like, I'm not telling you, you'll just find out. So each morning he would say to us, okay, this is where we're going today. It'll be up, down, through some water, and we'll make it into the village about 5 o'clock. Wow. So it had no kind of quantitative.
That would have
fully put us out of our comfort zones.
Yeah.
But it really taught me just to take one step at a time, and you eventually get to the top of the mountain. And you eventually get. And then there was one day where we could have a challenge up this mountain. So we could time it. It had kind of become a little bit of a tradition that you timed this stretch.
Right.
And so there were half of us that were in, and there were other half that were like, we'll just walk up behind you and cheer you on. So the competitive group were like, okay, let's set this timer who, I think that the winning time was about 22 minutes, but average was about 30 minutes to get up this hill. So someone gave me a timer, a watch to wear, and I set off, as hard as I could go up quite a steep start. And I was gassed, just gone. And I looked at my watch and I was like, oh my God, we're only 10 minutes in. How am I? And this time frame, I was literally like, how the hell am I going to get to the top? Pretend my kids are at the top. Let's just, and ended up getting there. And I got to the top, I threw the watch and I said, I don't want to have a reference point anymore.
Yeah, right.
And he actually, when we all got to the top, he said, that actually wasn't the hardest hill you've actually done. But because in my head
it was.
I had a distance of it is going to be about 30 minutes. It was, get to the top. It's going to be hard. But every other hill that we'd done that was harder, it was just one foot in front of the other and be in the moment. So be where your feet are. So I juggle a lot of hats. I have the pharmacies. I have another business called Batch Tested. I run a pharmacy owners conference. I'm married, 2 children. So trying to be, I'm not a kind of find balance person. Nothing fun happens at equilibrium. Like when you're on a seesaw, just go up or down. Something's going to happen.
Absolutely.
And one of my favorite quotes is fly the plane, build the plane while you're flying it.
Oh, that's cool.
You know, don't wait for the perfection.
Yeah.
Don't wait for crossing all the I's and the T's. Have your
Just do
parachute
it.
ready, but just go, launch and see what happens. And I have that philosophy at the store, at the pharmacies as well. Let's just do something. What's the worst thing that can happen?
We go back to
if we
it.
need to edit it, remarket that, change that, twig that.
Yep.
But let's just go and let's take flight and see what happens kind of thing.
That's that confidence, though, that I was speaking about before. And can you imagine saying that now versus when you first
Well, I think that's one of
graduated?
the biggest things in the for the first 10 years of my career, I solely ran one store, owned one store, and it was my primary focus.
Right.
And then I look at what I've done in the last 5 years, and a lot of that I think was sport teaches you about goal setting, but it can create a real tunneled vision.
True.
And then I kind of took my blinkers off and really opened my periphery in the last 5 years.
Okay.
And I'm very big on saying yes and work it out afterwards.
Yep.
That you never know where a door will lead. It might be just a slight crack in the opening. Just walk in, see where it takes you, work it out kind of thing. So I think definitely what I've done in the last 5 years, I was kind of just known for just being the owner of this one store. And I love the fact that I've brought it and I love the variety.
Yeah.
I love that each day, you know, some days I'm a pharmacist on the floor, some I'm running and batch tested is with athletes and helping them with, so 1 in 5 supplements that you'll find at the pharmacy or a supermarket contains a prohibited substance
Right.
that would result in a positive career-ending drug test for an athlete.
Okay.
So I had some sports dietitians that came to me a few years ago and said, we're really struggling to find the tested batches of the right products because some companies will actually pay to get independent testing done to show they don't contain prohibited substances, and they're the ones the athletes want.
Right.
It's just a real struggle to find them. So with my contacts in pharmacy and being an athlete, these dietitians came to me and said, can you do this? And I remember walking out of the meeting, it was pre-Tokyo Olympics, and my business partner looked at me and he was like, what have you just agreed to? And I was like, just hang on for the ride. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, now we service most of the athletes across the country, ensuring that they have safe supplements.
That's amazing.
It's a beautiful blend of my worlds.
True.
Like there's a synergy with being back in the sporting world, being amongst the athletes, being part of their team with the doctors and the dietitians, and sport pharmacy is huge overseas and not really noted in Australia. But if I can change that, it would never in my teenage years or at uni did I ever think sport pharmacy or my sporting and pharmacy worlds would come together.
That's
and I
cool.
love that.
Yeah.
And then the pharmacy ownership thing is just, I love helping other pharmacy owners and all coming together and sharing best practice and inspiring each other. It's a really beautiful community to be a part of. So I love the variety in my life now, and I'd be really bored. I'm taking some leave. I'm actually taking some leave. Maybe just in January and February, and I've been told I should write a book by a few people. So I'm going to look at writing a book.
Wow.
So
This is a nice segue into the book writing because there's so much there. There's so much more to unpack.
Yeah. So I'm not a writer. English was probably my worst subject. I'm a talker. So I'll find ChatGTP or someone to dictate to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've got the tools.
But I love the variety that the last 5 years have brought me, built on the foundation, I suppose, of that dream and the passion for pharmacy, and now all the little avenues it goes off into.
My goodness. And what a bright, bright, bright future ahead, given that I feel like you've sort of taken on and flourished. You've always been confident, but I think it's even more so. I've got something that people need and want.
Yeah.
And it gives you that extra zest, that extra confidence. My goodness, the next 10 years are going to look amazing for you.
Yeah. And I love the leadership side of it. I love the business side of it. I love the entrepreneurial. And the interesting thing in Australia is you need to be a pharmacist to own a pharmacy.
Right.
But there's no business training. It's all clinical
Is that
when you do
right?
your degree.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting space, but it's one that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
And even, you're corporate, but you're not corporate. And I love that side of it as well.
Yeah.
But equally, there's opportunities that have opened up recently of being on boards and things like that, which I love.
Go for it.
So,
Just
say
say
yes and work it out afterwards.
That's amazing. Speaking of the book, I feel like as I said, it's a nice segue, and we could continue speaking a long, long time and unpacking furthermore your success and what brings you to today. As I mentioned in the beginning, it is a short, sharp, powerful, impactful, and that was absolutely everything. I can't believe I keep looking down at your watch for reference and we're at about that 35-minute mark, but I feel like we could continue this for a long, long time.
Yeah,
so
to be continued.
Yeah, exactly. ... Part 2 soon, and or the book. I look forward to, hopefully that's an audio because I'm a better audio. Yes.
Yeah, so am I. Yeah. Better with the podcast and the audio than sitting down and reading.
Amazing. When we first started speaking off camera and off recording, you sort of, spat out a couple of contexts and couple of topics to cover. That was amazing. That was even better than I probably anticipated. Not that I didn't think that it was going to be, but I just wanted more. And unfortunately, we have to start wrapping it up for respect of everybody who's watching and or listening. But Karen, that's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that so much. You were just so natural. It just came out because it's just you.
Because I love what I do. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do for our community and our people. I've always been human focused, and I love that. I can feel that about you.
Yeah.
I hope that was as interesting and fun for you as it was for me.
Yes.
And I look forward to watching this again. It's always the best part for me, selfishly, is I get to be here physically and listening and watching, but then I get to watch it again and again and again. So it's really cool. So I know you've helped somebody out there who's watching or listening. And I just think we've got so much goodness to share, and you've shared so much today. So massive thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, Karen. Thank you. Well, that wraps up another episode of Empowered. If you would like to be a beautiful queen guest here in the studio, please contact me. And thank you very much, as I said, to our queen today, Karen Brown. It's been phenomenal. And thank you for listening to another episode of Empowered.